Alright, so let's wrap up this follow and unfollow user feature in this video. So if you go to other people's profile page, this follow button doesn't work right now. So let's go back to the editor and then open up spec feature, follow, unfollow spec. And you can see, you can click on the follow button and we expect that to not be on the page, and then we expect unfollow button to be on the page. So let's run this test. So rspec and then specify the path. And we get this error saying expected not defined button follow, but found one match. So let's create a controller for that. Oh, let's go to the view template first. App views. That's user show.html.erb. And here we are always displaying follow right now. So in the last video, we implemented this method on the user model. So if you go to user.rb, you can see this predicate method. You can ask user if the user is following other user. So you can say if current user following this user, then we want to display button unfollow. Otherwise, we'll display follow button. All right. So right now, clicking on this button doesn't do anything, but let's make sure that it works. So refresh the page, and I have a typo there. Oops. All right, so let's make this button a link so that it sends off some requests to the server. So let's create a controller first. So I'll go to app controllers, relationships, controller.rb. All right. Inherit from application controller. And we want to make sure that user is logged in. So before action, authenticate user. And we're going to have create and destroy. All right, so let's add that to the route file before we forget. So here, resources. Actually, you can do resource and then relationships, only create and destroy. All right, so let's check that in our rake routes. And I'm just going to grab that to relationship. All right, so we have these two routes defined. That's going to go to /relationships with the post request and /relationships to delete request. All right, so that looks good. What I want to do here, let's go to our view file and make this a button to. All right, so it's button to. Let's start from follow. So I'll say button 2, then follow. And specify the URL to this. So if you go back to the terminal, you see this is relationships. So you can just say relationships path, and button 2 helper defaults to post request. So we don't have to do anything here. But I'd like to pass another parameter, which is user ID. Just set the user's ID. So let's do that. And then we can just delete the Alright, so let's go back to the controller and then see, I'm just going to put fail here so we can see that we actually call this action. So let's go back to the browser and we can now click on this button. We can inspect that in our browser, and it's actually creating a form element, and then we have a submit button which is directed to relationships, and then we passing that user ID as well. So let's click on that, and then we can see that it's actually calling this create action in our relationships controller. So that's what we want. So all right, let's delete this fail, and then we're gonna get the user. So let's get the user from user, find in params user ID, and then current user, follow this user, and redirect to this user page, right? So, all right, let's make sure that it works. So let's go back and then refresh. Let's click on this, and now we have unfollow button. All right, so let's do the same thing for the unfollow button in our template. So let's change this to some ERB button to helper, unfollow, and relationships path, and then passing in that user ID, and we have to specify the method, which is delete. All right, so let's go to the relationship controller. Let's make sure that it's calling this action. So refresh the page. All right, so that's good. Let's change this. Basically do the same thing. Current user, redirect to user's profile page. All right, let's go back and click on that. Now you can toggle this button. So let's run our spec. And it's passing. All right, let's go back to the controller, and you can see the duplication here. So let's get rid of that duplication by creating a private method which sets the user. So I'll call setUser, and I'll assign that to instance variable user, find, and then params. So we can just call it after this authenticate user. This order of before action is pretty important. So it's going to call authenticate user first, and then if it doesn't return false, then if it passes, then it's going to call the second before action. So we can just get rid of this line, and then we have to change that user to an instance variable. Let's make sure that it still works. All right, let's go back to our spec. And you can see that if you click on follow, it toggles and it shows display unfollow button. So let's do the other side. Let's click on that unfollow button, and then we'll expect page not to have button follow. Oops. That should be unfollow. And this is follow. All right, let's run the spec again. All right, I forgot to change the user here in the controller. All right, so it's passing. Cool. Let's add some CSS to that button. We can just do I'm just going to break this into multiple line. Oops. All right, so that looks good. Let's commit this. Let's check git diff. All right, so let's commit that. All right, so this follow button is fully functional. But one thing I want to add is some Ajax to this button, but which is not super important right now. I think we should implement some other feature, and so that we can learn more Rails stuff. But if you guys want to see me how I made this React component in my other app, please leave comments below, and I would love to show you how I made this React component and make use of Ajax so that we don't have to do this full page refresh. All right, so let's go back and then let's check our Git history. I recently learned some Git tricks, and I have this shorthand Git SLA. I can just show what it stands for by just say it's alias of git log these with these flags or options, and if I run that, I can see a nice formatted git log, and I can see this unfollow branch. and I can just kind of squash that. And I don't want to have too many git commits for this feature. I just want to add one commit, so I can do that by saying git rebase and then -i for interactive rebase to master. So I have all these commits, but I can just kind of squash this into one commit. So let's do that. I'm going to demonstrate how I do that. So I can just simply change this to pick to S, which stands for squash. You can see the options here. This is squash. So if I save that, it opens up this another prompt, and I can just change this to different commit message, add follow button to user's profile page. All right, I would write more git message here. If you guys want to write multiple line git message, I recommend you do so, but I'm kind of lazy right now, so I'm just gonna write this. And if I go back to terminal, and if I run git SLA, I can see that, and I can check git diff, and then this branch and master branch. I can see the difference between these two branches. All right, so let's merge this into master. Oops, let's check out master, merge, follow, and unfollow. All right, so that's it for this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks.